The cotton fabric of the towel was soaked through. Tamara changed the compress on her daughter's forehead for the third time and quietly sat down on the edge of the bed. The child's cheek was burning, and only the tip of her nose was sticking out from under the blanket with the princesses. The cotton fabric of the towel was soaked through. Tamara changed the compress on her daughter's forehead for the third time and quietly sat down on the edge of the bed. The child's cheek was burning, and only the tip of her nose was sticking out from under the blanket with the princesses. "Mom, a fairy tale." Anichka whispered and coughed. "Of course, dear." Tamara stroked her daughter's disheveled hair. "Just let us set up a thermometer first." Grandma's mercury thermometer, stored in a tin candy box, was the only medical relic that Tamara managed to take from her mother's house. Electronic Valentine considered it a waste of money. "The mercury thermometer is more accurate, but we won't throw money down the drain," he snapped then. The clock in the hallway loudly counted off 2 strokes. At the same moment, the front door swung open with a roar that made the walls tremble. Anichka instinctively pulled the blanket over her head. Tamara, the husband's booming bass filled the entire space of the small house. "Where are you? Come here." She put the thermometer in the child's palm. "Keep it under your arm, I'll be back soon." Tamara hurried into the hallway, straightening her hair as she went. Lately, Valentine had been annoyed if she looked like a scarecrow. Long. "Are you deaf?" he began. "I was with Anichka, she has a fever," Tamara began, but stopped short under his heavy gaze. Valentine casually threw the bag on the bedside table and pulled off his leather jacket. "The Rostovs will arrive in 4 hours. With a large order," he said this in a tone that does not tolerate objections. "Prepare dinner. A formal service, champagne, snacks. You will do everything as it should be." Tamara froze, feeling how everything inside had shrunk into a tight knot. "Valentine, maybe we can move it? Anichka is completely ill." 37.5. "She needs care, medicine." The man turned slowly. In his gaze one could read poorly concealed irritation. "Repeat what you just said." "Is the child sick?" Tamara swallowed the lump in her throat. "I need to be near her. And I'm saying that today we have important guests." Valentine came close, hovering over his wife. "The Rostovs can sign a contract for the supply of meat for the entire trading network. Do you understand what this means for us?" "Us?" This word has long lost its real meaning. It turned into an order, behind which stood, "Do as I said." "I understand, but..." "No buts." Valentine hit the wall with his fist. "A normal wife is always ready to receive her husband's guests. Always. Especially when it comes to the well-being of the family." "About the well-being of the family." This phrase, like a broken record, sounded every time Tamara tried to object to something. Like when he took her bank card, "I, as a co-borrower on the mortgage, must control all expenses. This is for the well-being of the family." The sound of a child's cough came from the bedroom. Tamara involuntarily turned around. "Go prepare dinner," Valentine snapped. "The girl is fine, a common cold." "Don't be dramatic." "Don't be dramatic." These words echoed in Tamara's head while she was mechanically chopped vegetables for salad. Outside the kitchen window, the gray October sky merged with the horizon, and thoughts were carried far into the past. 5 years ago everything was different. When they met, Valentine seemed the most attentive man in the world. He appeared in her life when she desperately needed support. Hospital corridor, the smell of bleach and hopelessness. Tamara sits on a sagging chair near the room, clutching in her hands a tattered prescription. The drug is not on the state list. It is purchased independently at market prices. Do you sit here every day? The voice behind him sounded unexpectedly soft for such a large man. Someone close? Mom, she answered without raising her eyes. Oncology. He sat down next to him without asking permission. Valentin Seleznov. We supply meat for the hospital canteen. And then, after a pause, what medicine is needed? She showed the recipe, not believing in selfless help. Too expensive, too rare. But 3 days later he brought a box of medicine and refused to take the money. Consider it an investment in a good acquaintance. His smile seemed sincere then. The sound of a knife on the cutting board brought Tamara back to reality. An investment in a good acquaintance. Now these words sounded different, as if he had calculated in advance how to acquire ownership of a young woman with child. When her mother died and Tamara discovered that she was pregnant, Valentine invited her to marry him. I will take care of you and our child. Where are these promises now? The wedding was modest, without a white dress and photos. Pregnancy, mourning for her mother and the lack of her own home forced her to agree. And then what? As soon as she crossed the threshold of his house, the roles changed. Instead of an attentive boyfriend, a demanding owner appeared. Instead of care, control. Instead of love, indulgent patience. Tamara sighed, wiping her hands on her apron. Anichka needed to take medicine, but leaving the kitchen now meant incurring the wrath of her husband. She hastily put on the kettle, at least to brew raspberries for her daughter. Loud laughter could be heard from the living room. Valentina. He was talking on the phone, probably with those same Rostovs. His voice sounded obsequious, ingratiating. Of course, we will be waiting impatiently. My wife is preparing an amazing dinner. Again, my wife. Not Tamara, not the wife, an impersonal function, part of the image of a successful businessman. My wife, who must silently fulfill all the whims, not even having the right to care for a sick child. The kettle whistled, and Tamara hastily brewed raspberries. It was necessary to slip into the nursery at least for a minute. Where are you going? Valentine appeared at the kitchen door, holding a glass of whiskey in his hand. Take the medicine to Anichka. She squeezed the cup of raspberry broth tighter. First you finish with the food, he snapped. Guests are more important. The girl will not die from a cold. Tamara felt something inside her break. Carefully erected. Valia, it will only take a minute. I said no. He stepped towards her, and Tamara instinctively retreated. Don't make me repeat it. At that moment, a plaintive voice was heard from the nursery. Mommy. Tamara shuddered and involuntarily took a step towards the door. Stop, Valentine barked, and his hand fell heavily on her shoulder. Something finally broke in Tamara. Looking straight into her husband's eyes, she quietly but firmly said, "Let me go. I have to check on my daughter." What did you say? There was genuine surprise in his voice. In 5 years of marriage, she had never objected so directly. I said, "Let me go to my child." The silence that hung between them seemed material. Valentine slowly removed his hand, as if not believing what he heard. Taking advantage of his confusion, Tamara slipped past and hurried to the nursery. Anichka lay curled up. The thermometer fell out from under the arm and now was white alone on the sheet. Tamara raised it 38.2. The temperature has risen. Mommy has come, she whispered, sitting down on the edge of the bed. Now let us drink a raspberry, and it will become easier. The girl stood up and suddenly froze, staring at the doorway. Her eyes widened with fear, and her fingers frantically grabbed her mother's hand. Tamara turned around. Valentine was standing in the doorway. You have exactly 5 minutes, he muttered through his teeth. Then you will return to the kitchen and finish what you started. And when the guests come, you will smile and pretend that everything is fine. Do you understand? Without waiting for an answer, he turned around and left, slamming the door loudly. Anichka sobbed quietly, "Mommy, I'm afraid." Tamara hugged her daughter to her, feeling her little heart beating. Something was arising in her soul, something new, unfamiliar, similar to determination. "Don't be afraid, dear," she whispered, stroking the hot child's cheek. "Mom will come up with something. She will definitely come up with something." The pie dough didn't want to rise. Tamara looked under the wet towel for the third time and sighed. "We'll have to cook something else." The clock showed the beginning of the third, and there was still a lot of work to do. The sound of an approaching car made her shudder. Looking out the window, Tamara saw her mother-in-law's silver Lexus. Her heart sank. Somewhere down, "Valia, your mother has arrived," she shouted towards the living room, where her husband was watching football. "Well, come and meet me," came the answer. "Why are you standing there?" Tamara hastily wiped her hands on her apron and hurried into the hallway. Zinaida Petrovna was already standing on the threshold, a stately woman in a strict gray suit and with perfectly styled hair the color of a raven's wing. "Hello, Zinaida Petrovna," Tamara tried to smile. The mother-in-law looked at her daughter-in-law with an appraising glance. She nodded at Tamara's home dress. "And what's wrong with your hair?" The straw was burning in the fire, not her hair. Without waiting for an answer, Zinaida Petrovna walked into the house, taking off her impeccably clean leather gloves as she went. "I decided to come early to help with the preparations. Valentine said the Rostovs would come. These are important people, you can't lose face." Valentine appeared in the hallway, whose face instantly changed at the sight of his mother. "Mommy," he broke into a smile and offered his cheek for a kiss. "It's so good that you came." Of course, she came. Zinaida Petrovna patted her son on the shoulder. "Who else will make sure that everything is as it should be?" She walked into the living room, ran her finger over the furniture. "I knew it," the mother-in-law summed up, showing a barely noticeable trace of dust on the pad of her finger. "Tamara, when was the last time you wiped the chandelier? And the tablecloth?" She touched the edge of the table with disgust. "Is it possible to serve on such a tablecloth? Where is the tablecloth that I gave you?" "I washed it in the morning, it's not dry yet," Tamara answered quietly. "It's not dry?" Zinaida Petrovna clasped her hands. "My girl, a real mistress plans such things in advance. My mother-in-law, may she rest in heaven, always said, a good wife should foresee 2 steps ahead." Valentine nodded in agreement to every word of his mother. "What about dinner?" Voiceover. Dear listeners, forgive me for interrupting the story literally for a moment. We are always very interested in knowing where our voices come from. Please write in the comments what city or country you are from. Or just send any emoticon. For you, a couple of seconds, and for us, the best reward that helps the channel live and develop. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for every comment on the channel Women's Stories and Family Secrets. The mother-in-law headed to the kitchen, where new disappointment awaited her. "What is this? The dough didn't work out, my God. Do you even know how to do anything right?" Anichka got sick, Tamara tried to explain. Her temperature rose. "I got distracted." Distracted? Zinaida Petrovna rolled her eyes to the ceiling. "Valentine, do you hear? She got distracted. What if you were distracted at your work? What would your suppliers, your clients say?" "Exactly, Mom." Valentine hugged his mother by the shoulders. "I tell her the same thing." The mother-in-law resolutely rolled up the sleeves of her blouse. "So, I'm taking control. Tamara, urgently change clothes and comb your hair. Then wash the floors in the living room. And I'll get to dinner." An hour later, standing on her knees with a rag in her hands, Tamara listened to Zinaida Petrovna commanding in the kitchen, as if general on the battlefield. "My back ached, and my thoughts again and again returned to Anichka, left in the nursery with a glass of cold tea. I told you that spending money on this repair is a waste. The mother-in-law's voice came from the kitchen. We could have lived peacefully for another 5 years with the old wallpaper. Use the money saved to buy shares. I looked at the analytics yesterday. Tamara smiled bitterly. Shares, of course. All family finances have long ago come under the control of Zinaida Petrovna. When did this start? It seems like a month after the wedding. Then the mother-in-law announced that the young wife did not know how to handle money. Since then, Tamara was allocated a fixed amount for food and household expenses, not a penny more. For every purchase she had to account for checks. Once she bought expensive baby shampoo for Anichka, and Zinaida Petrovna created a real scandal. What kind of nonsense is this? Isn't regular one good? It won't take long to spoil a child. Actually, Tamara didn't see it because of her salary. She went to Valentine's card as a co-borrower on the mortgage. For the common good, as he said. She even bought clothes for herself and her daughter at a second-hand store with the crumbs that she managed to hide from the monthly reports. I'm like a serf peasant woman to the landowners, flashed through her head, and this thought made her feel bitter and resentful. Tears. Mom, why are you crying? Tamara shuddered and turned around. Anichka stood in the doorway, pale, with red spots on her cheeks, but with a determined look. I'm not crying, honey. Tamara hastily wiped her eyes. It's from the dust. You can't get up. Go to bed. I don't want to go to bed. The girl came closer and put her hot palm on her mother's cheek. You are always sad. Why? This simple childish question pierced Tamara through and through. What can she answer? How to explain to a 4-year-old girl the horror of their situation? Well, dear, she whispered, hugging her daughter. Mom is just a little tired. Is Dad hurting you? Anichka suddenly asked. I heard him scream. Tamara froze. In the children's eyes there was an understanding, not at all childish. Does her daughter already realize what is happening in their family? This thought made my heart clench. Anichka, listen, what is going on here? Zinaida Petrovna stood on the threshold. Why isn't the child in bed, and why hasn't the floor been cleaned yet? She has a temperature. Tamara stood up, shielding her daughter with herself. She needs medicine. Medicines, medicines. The mother-in-law mimicked. In our time there were no such tendernesses. Raspberries and mustard plasters, that's all the medicine. And all you know is to waste money. Zinaida Petrovna, Tamara mustered all her determination. Anichka needs an antibiotic. Her fever has not subsided for 3 days now. Antibiotic? The mother-in-law clasped her hands. You're crazy. This is chemistry. Valentine entered the room, attracted by the noise. What happened? Your wife demands money for some expensive medicines. Please, Zinaida Petrovna. And I say, raspberries and garlic heal everything. Valentine frowned. Tamara, take Anichka to the room and come back to finish cleaning the floor. The guests will be in 2 hours, Valia. Tamara took a step towards her husband. Please, we need 5,000 for medicine. I will prepare everything for the arrival of the guests, but my daughter needs help. There was silence. Zinaida Petrovna looked in amazement from her daughter-in-law to her son. Valentine slowly turned pale. What did you say? He muttered through his teeth. 5,000 rubles, Tamara repeated, feeling her knees shaking. For medicine for Anichka. Mother knows better what to spend the money on. Valentine barked. If she said that raspberries will help, then it will be so. Raspberries will not help with a bacterial infection, Tamara objected, surprised at her courage. The child needs an antibiotic and an antipyretic. What are you, a doctor? Zinaida Petrovna asked caustically. Where does such knowledge come from? I work in a hospital. Tamara straightened her back. And I know what my daughter needs. Listen to her. Zinaida Petrovna turned to her son. Your wife is now telling us how to manage the family budget. Ungrateful, we feed her, water her, dress her, I work too, Tamara interrupted, feeling a wave of anger rising inside. I also earn money and have a say in how to spend it. Especially when it comes to the health of my child. Valentin stepped towards her, clenching his fists. You are forgetting yourself, he whispered. Your salary is a drop in the ocean compared to what I invest in this family. And I invest all of myself in this family, Tamara answered quietly but firmly. And I will not allow my child to suffer because of your greed. What did you say? Valentin grabbed her by the shoulder. Anichka, who had been standing next to her mother all this time, suddenly shouted, Don't touch Mom, don't touch. This child's cry seemed to cut through the tense atmosphere. Valentin let go of his hand, and Zinaida Petrovna blinked in confusion, as if only now noticing the presence of her granddaughter. Valentine, child, she muttered. Not in front of a child. Tamara picked up her daughter in her arms. I'll take her to the room, she said quietly. And then we will continue this conversation. And, without waiting for an answer, she left the room, holding Anichka tightly to her. Everything will be fine, baby, Tamara whispered, kissing her daughter's hot forehead. Mom will fix everything. We can't live like this anymore. We can't and one tea. And in the living room behind her back, Zinaida Petrovna reprimanded her son. I told you that she thinks too much about herself. I told you, didn't I? Give her free rein, she will sit on your neck. Tamara closed the nursery door behind her, cutting off these words. A new feeling grew stronger in her heart, a determination that she had not known before. The determination to protect herself and her daughter at any cost. Heavy lead clouds covered the sky. From the nursery window, Tamara watched as the bare branches of an old apple tree scratched the gray air. Anichka finally fell asleep, exhausted by the temperature and tears. The clock showed 16:30. The guests were supposed to arrive in an hour. The door creaked. Tamara turned around. Valentin stood on the threshold, gloomy, with a heavy look. Let's go out, he muttered through his teeth. She went out into the corridor, quietly closing the nursery door. The house smelled of pies and anxiety. So you think that my mother and I are greedy? Valentin began in an unprecedentedly quiet voice. There was steel in his voice. I didn't say that, Tamara answered quietly. Don't lie. He barked. I heard everything. I won't let my child suffer because of your greed, your words. She was silent. Yes, 30 is meaningless. He really heard. And she really thought so. I need money for medicine for my daughter, Tamara said, looking him straight in the eyes. 5,000 rubles. This is not such a big amount. It's not about the amount, Valentin stepped closer. It's about that you decided that you can demand. As if you have the right to vote. I am a mother. And we are talking about the health of the child. Tamara felt a flame flaring up inside. Of course, I have the right to vote. Valentin's hand darted forward, grabbing her wrists. You are nobody, he whispered. Without me you would be nothing. You would live in a dorm, count pennies, fuss with the child in the bathtub. Have you forgotten who pulled you out of poverty? Tamara tried to break free, but his fingers only squeezed her wrist tighter. Let me go. She breathed out, you're hurting me. Oh, I haven't even started yet. Valentin pulled her towards him. Do you think I forgot how you talked to my mother today? How did you allow yourself to contradict me in front of the child, and now you still demand money? He sharply pushed her away, and Tamara hit her back against the wall. Pain shot through her spine. Dahlia, she began. Shut up. He interrupted, I've decided everything. You need to think about your behavior. Think seriously. Cold rage splashed in his eyes. He grabbed her by the elbow and dragged her to the exit. "Where are you taking me?" Tamara resisted, but Valentine was stronger. "Where you can think about everything thoroughly," he muttered, pushing her out onto the porch. The cold autumn air hit her in the face. Wet snow mixed with rain fell from the sky, turning the yard into a dirty mess. Valentine dragged her across the yard to the old wooden shed where gardening tools were stored. "No," Tamara breathed out, understanding his intention. "Valia, please don't, you forgot your place," he barked, unlocking the massive lock. "You'll spend the night here, think about it. Maybe by the morning you'll become wiser." The barn door swung open with a terrible creak. Inside it smelled of dampness, rotten leaves, and machine oil. Valentine pushed her inside, and Tamara fell onto the concrete floor, painfully hitting her knees. "The guests will come any minute," he said from the threshold. "Mother has prepared everything. We'll manage without you. I'll say that you have a migraine. And when you're ready to apologize and promise that this won't happen again, you'll knock." The door slammed. The lock clanged. Tamara was left alone in the dark. The cold penetrated to the bones. Tamara sat on an overturned bucket, wrapped in an old canvas rag found in the corner. The wind rustled behind the walls of the barn. Through the cracks thin strips of light were breaking through the boards, the windows were burning in the house. Muffled voices and laughter could be heard. The guests had arrived. "What have I done?" Tamara thought, rubbing her frozen fingers. The hand that Valentine was grabbing began to bruise. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the feeling of humiliation and helplessness. The words of her mother, spoken shortly before her death, came to mind. "Daughter, a woman must be strong. Not in body, in spirit. When it seems that there is no more strength, that's when you need to find it." Tamara pressed her back against the wall of the barn. The boards vibrated weakly, someone was playing music in the house. The holiday was in full swing. There is nowhere to fall further, she thought, looking into the darkness, the barn, cold, humiliation. This is the very bottom to which you can sink, and when you reach the bottom, there is only one thing left to do: push off and start to rise. Suddenly, through the noise of the wind, she heard a thin voice, "Mom. Mommy, where are you?" My heart sank. "Anichka." Tamara rushed to the door, clung to the crack. "Anichka, I'm here, in the barn. Go indoors, you'll catch a cold, Mom." "Mommy, I will help you," the girl sobbed. "Honey, come back to the house, you'll get even sicker. Dad said that you had a headache and you left. And Grandma said that you were bad and you were punished." Fury and pain flooded Tamara's heart. They didn't even bother to check if the girl was awake. They left the sick child alone while they entertained the guests. "Sonny, listen to me," Tamara called. "Dad locked me in the barn. I can't get out. You need to go back to the crib, cover yourself well and wait for me there." "No," Anichka stated bluntly, coming closer. "I'll let you out, honey, you can't. There's a heavy lock here. I can. It's not complicated on the outside. I saw where Dad put the key." Tamara heard the plopping of small bare feet on the wet ground. Then, silence. She pressed herself against the door, peering into the darkness of the yard. A few minutes later the steps returned. "Mom, I found it," Anichka whispered triumphantly. "Dad put it on the shelf in the hallway." I stood on the chair. The sound of a key scratching in the lock made Tamara freeze. Then a click. The door opened slightly, and a small figure slid into the barn. "Anichka." Tamara grabbed her daughter in her arms, feeling how much she was trembling. "Lord, you're all wet and cold." "I found you," the girl whispered, her teeth chattering like bones. The grandmother didn't notice. "She and her uncles are drinking wine." Tamara hugged her daughter to her, trying to warm her with her body. How could adults leave a sick child unattended? Didn't you notice that she slipped out of the house in a nightgown into the wet snow? What am I doing with my own child? Tamara whispered, and hot tears flowed down her cheeks. What am I allowing you to do to you? Don't cry, Mommy. Anichka stroked her hair with a tiny icy palm. I saved you, like in a fairy tale. Tamara kissed her forehead. Hot. Too hot. We need to go back to the house, dear. You can't stay here. She carefully looked outside. Music. Valentine's guests were clearly drinking and having fun. Let us go. Tamara took her daughter in her arms, just quietly. They slipped out of the barn and, clinging to the wall of the house, made their way to the back entrance. The kitchen, fortunately, was empty. All the food had already migrated to the living room. Tamara quietly walked into the nursery and closed the door with a latch. You're wet through and through, she whispered, helping her daughter change into dry pajamas. Now I'll cover you and give you medicine. Anichka unquestioningly swallowed cough syrup, the last drops from the bottle she bought last month. She was trembling, and a hoarse whistle escaped from her mouth with every breath. I'm completely cold, the girl complained. And my throat hurts. Tamara lay down next to her and hugged her daughter, trying to warm her with her body. Music was thundering behind the wall, but here, in the small nursery, was their refuge, their tiny island of safety. Don't tell anyone that you freed me, Tamara whispered, this is our secret. Dad will be angry. I won't tell, Anichka promised, snuggling closer. Mommy. Will we always live like this? This childish question, asked between coughing attacks, pierced Tamara's heart. What can she answer? That her daughter is doomed to grow up in a home where there is no love, where there is only control, humiliation, and fear. No, dear, Tamara answered firmly, stroking her daughter's tangled hair. Everything will change soon. I promise. Really? Anichka raised her head, and hope appeared in her feverishly shining eyes. True, Tamara hugged the fragile body tighter to herself. I swear to you, we will no longer live like this. Where will we go? The girl's voice contained both curiosity and fear. Where they will love us, Tamara whispered, not knowing the answer herself. Where no one will hurt us. She didn't know where this place was, but was determined to find it. In the barn, sitting on the cold floor, she reached her bottom. Now it's time to rise. Dawn was beginning outside the window. The first pale rays penetrated through the cracks in the curtains. Anichka finally fell asleep, breathing heavily and whistling. Tamara carefully got up and went to the window. Guests' cars were parked in the yard. Apparently, the holiday lasted until the morning. They need a plan. They will need money, documents, a place where they can leave. Tamara leaned her forehead against the cold glass. For the sake of her daughter, she will find the strength to change everything. For the sake of this little creature who loves her unconditionally and purely, she is ready to fight. A new feeling flared up in my soul, determination mixed with rage and hope. The time had come to act. Tamara looked back at her sleeping daughter, and her heart was filled with love. I will get us out of here, she swore mentally. Whatever it costs me. Monday morning turned out to be dank. Tamara walked through the territory of the regional hospital, wrapped in an old coat. 5 days have passed since that day. Cold night in the barn. 5 days of internal boiling, fear and determination. Anichka got really sick. Bronchitis with obstruction, said the pediatrician, Tamara's old acquaintance from work, who was secretly called in. He brought antibiotics and antipyretics, refusing to take the money. Then we'll pay it off, he said, looking with alarm at the young woman's face, swollen from tears. Miraculously, he managed to hide it from Valentine and mother-in-law that Anichka left the house that night. "It's just that a cold turned into bronchitis, it happens," Tamara repeated in response to irritated questions. And no one spoke about the night in the barn. In the morning, Valentine found the door open and decided that he forgot to lock the lock. Tamara did not dissuade him. Since then, a fragile truce was established in the house. Valentine pretended that nothing had happened. Tamara pretended to believe. But inside she had a plan brewing. The administrative building of the hospital greeted her with warmth and the smell of bleach. Tamara went up to the second floor, where the accounting department was located. Knocked on the office of the chief accountant. "Come in," came the voice of Nelly Stepanovna. An elderly woman with piercing eyes sat at a table littered with papers. She pushed her glasses onto the tip of her nose, looking who came in. "Ah, Selezneva, did something happen? Today is not your shift. Nelly Stepanovna, I need to talk to you. On a personal issue." The woman put down the papers and looked carefully at her subordinate. "I'm listening. Tell me." Tamara nervously clasped her fingers. "Is it possible to receive a salary personally, not on a card, but in cash, for example?" Nelly Stepanovna's eyebrows rose. "Why suddenly such a question? Are you having problems with your bank?" "No." Tamara lowered her eyes. "With her husband." There was silence in the office. Nelly Stepanovna sighed. "Tamara, is everything okay at home? You've been kind of tense lately." "Everything is fine." Tamara squeezed out a smile. "It's just that debts have accumulated, and my husband strictly monitors expenses." The chief accountant nodded, clearly not believing it, but did not insist. "I would advise contacting a lawyer. Perhaps there are options." "Thank you." Tamara stood up. "Sorry for the trouble." After leaving the hospital, she sat down on the bench in the hospital room. Square. Her thoughts were feverishly racing. A lawyer means time and money, which she doesn't have. She needs another way. She needs money. At least for the first time, to leave and rent a house. And then she remembered her brother. "Gennady, it's me, Tamara. The telephone conversation with my brother was not easy." They haven't communicated for almost 6 months since she once again reminded him of his duty. "Tamarka," the voice on the phone sounded faintly cheerful. "How are you? How is Anya?" "It's normal." Tamara squeezed the phone tighter. "Gina, I need to talk to you. About my mother's duty." There was a pause. "Again?" There was irritation in my brother's voice. "Tom, we discussed everything. I'm going through a difficult period right now. You have to understand." "I understand everything." Tamara closed her eyes. "But I really need money. At least part of it. Do you remember how much we spent on my mother's illness? 300,000 rubles. I'm not asking for everything at once. I have a family, loans, and a mortgage." Gennady interrupted. "The children need to be fed." Morozka went to the gymnasium. "Do you know how much it costs?" And Mishka signed up for hockey. Uniform, training. Tamara listened to the usual excuses, and a wave of anger rose inside. When her mother was dying, her brother promised to return his share of the expenses. "I'll get the bonus. I'll close the loan. I'll sell the garage." Each time there was a reason to postpone the payment. "Gina," she interrupted his monologue, "I wouldn't ask if it weren't for extreme necessity. I need this money. I don't have that kind of money," the brother exclaimed irritably. "Where will I get them from? Selling a kidney?" Tamara clenched her teeth. Plan B also failed. She needed to think quickly. "Okay," she said unexpectedly calmly. "Then I'll tell Valentine about your debt." "What?" Gennady was taken aback. Why interfere with your husband? Because this is family money, Tamara continued in the same harsh tone. And he is the head of the family, as he likes to repeat. I think he will be very interested in returning what is owed to his wife. It was a bluff. The last thing she wanted was to drag her husband into this story. But my brother, didn't he know this? Are you crazy? There was panic in Gennady's voice. You have a week. Tamara herself didn't he recognize her voice. Otherwise, I'm calling Valentine. The meeting with my brother took place 6 days later. They agreed to meet in a cafe next to the bus station, a crowded enough place not to attract attention. Gennady looked haggard. He looked around suspiciously, as if he was afraid to see Valentine. Did you bring it? Tamara asked instead of greeting. The brother silently took out an envelope from the inside pocket of his jacket. There are 80,000 here, he said. Count it. Tamara opened the envelope under the table. There was indeed money inside, neat stacks of 5,000 bills. Where from? She asked, hiding the envelope in her bag. I took the loan, Gennady answered gloomily, at wild interest rates. Satisfied, the pang of conscience was fleeting. Tamara remembered Anichka, her hoarse breathing that night. I have a condition, her brother suddenly said, looking her straight in the eyes. You will write a receipt stating that I have fully repaid the debt. All 300,000. Tamara froze, but this is not true. Either this way or not at all, Gennady snapped. I don't want you or your hubby to ever come for money again. He took out a sheet of paper folded in 4 from his bag and handed it to her. Here's the text. Copy it by hand and sign it. Tamara unfolded the paper. I, Selezneva Tamara Nikolaevna, hereby confirm that my brother, Smirnov Gennady Nikolaevich, fully repaid the debt in the amount of 300,000 rubles spent on the treatment of our mother. Inside, everything rebelled against the signing of this document. My brother deceived her, twisted her arms. But what is more important, principles or the safety of her daughter? Give me a pen, she said quietly. Slowly, carefully tracing out each letter, Tamara rewrote the text of the receipt. Her hand trembled when she signed and dated. That's nice. Gennady hid the receipt in his inner pocket. Now we're even. We're settled, Tamara echoed. My brother drank coffee and got up. Listen, he hesitated. Are you sure everything is okay? You've become somehow different. Tamara raised her eyes to him. Everything is fine. I'm just finally setting priorities. Tamara devoted the following days to observation. She studied her husband's habits, when he leaves for work, when he returns, on what days they meet with suppliers. She wrote down Zinaida Petrovna's schedule in a small notebook. Tuesday and Friday, haircut and manicure. Wednesday, swimming pool. Every second Sunday, general cleaning in their house. She hid the money in an old children's book, The Adventures of Cipollino. Valentine was never interested in the contents of the bookshelves. In the evenings, when everyone fell asleep, she quietly took out the tattered bus schedule, studying the routes. The regional center, where she and her mother once lived, seemed the most logical option. There, at least, she knew city, could find inexpensive housing, perhaps a job. Tamara began to collect things a little at a time, so as not to arouse suspicion. A couple of Anichka's t-shirts, spare tights, several mother-s scarves. All this moved into a large sports bag, which she hid in the far corner of the closet. The documents were the most difficult part. Valentine kept Anichka's passport and birth certificate in a safe in his office. Tamara accidentally spied the code. It was his mother's birthday. But she didn't dare open the safe while her husband was at home. All that was left was to wait for the right moment. The occasion when it would be possible to leave so that the gain in time was maximum. Every evening, putting Anichka to bed. Tamara whispered, "Soon, dear, be patient a little longer." And the girl, as if understanding, nodded and hugged her mother tighter. 80,000 rubles burned her hands. It was freedom, packed in paper rectangles. Freedom for the daughter. Freedom from fear and humiliation. The daughter's freedom is more valuable than principles, Tamara repeated to herself, remembering the unfair receipt signed for her brother. Only a reason was needed, only one opportunity. And she knew that sooner or later this opportunity would present itself. Saturday morning turned out to be surprisingly sunny for the middle of November. Thin rays made their way through the curtains, drawing golden squares on the nursery floor. Anichka was sitting in bed, leafing through a tattered picture book. "Mom, look," she pointed her finger at the bright illustration. "This is how you and I are running away from the evil Senor Tomato." Tamara froze. Her heart skipped a beat. The girl pointed to the page where Cipollino helped his friends escape from persecution. Does the child really suspect something, or is this just a coincidence? Yes, honey, she sat down on the edge of the bed. Sometimes you have to run away to find something better. The front door slammed and Valentine returned. His heavy steps rumbled along the corridor, and he appeared at the door of the nursery. Surprisingly, the husband's face was shining. "Okay, women." He rubbed his hands. "I have news." Tamara instinctively approached. News from Valentine was rarely good. "Serious people are coming to see me this evening," he announced with an important look. "Investors from Moscow. They want to invest in expanding production." "I see." Tamara lowered her eyes. "I'll cook dinner." "Not just dinner." Valentine stepped into the room. "A real feast. I want to see a rich table, expensive snacks, good alcohol. So that everything is at the highest level." He took out a thick wad of money from his jacket pocket and counted out several bills. "Here are 25,000. For food and drink." Tamara looked incredulously at the outstretched money. She had not seen such generosity from her husband for many years. "Take it." He practically shoved the bills into her hand. "And don't save, these people are used to good things. If everything goes as expected, we will receive a contract for the supply of meat to 3 retail chains." He looked excited, almost feverishly active. Tamara carefully hid the money in the pocket of her dressing gown. "How long are you expecting guests?" "By 8. You have the whole day to prepare." Valentine was already heading towards the exit, but suddenly stopped. "And yes, let the girl sit in her room. I don't want her to get in the way." When the door closed behind him, Tamara looked at the money in her hand. Then she turned her gaze to her daughter. She looked at her with wide eyes, as if expecting a reaction. "This is a chance," flashed through Tamara's head. A sudden gift fate. Money, husband's employment, upcoming meeting, a whole day to prepare. "Anichka," she said quietly, "today we will play a game. You will pretend that you are a little unwell." "Okay?" The girl nodded seriously, like when Dad screamed, "Yes." Tamara stroked her daughter on the head. "But today you don't need to be really sick. Just cough a little if Dad asks how you feel." "Why?" "So that Dad doesn't come near you," Tamara answered honestly. "He is afraid of getting infected." "I know," the girl nodded seriously. "He always leaves when I cough." The supermarket in the center of the town was filled with Saturday shoppers. Tamara methodically walked around the departments, putting into the cart all the most expensive and exquisite things: blue cheeses, Spanish jamon, seafood, fresh herbs. In the wine department, she chose several bottles of good red and white wine. Then she added a couple of bottles of expensive cognac and, after a little deliberation, a pack of strong imported beer, Valentine's favorite drink. The last stop was the pharmacy. Tamara carefully studied the compositions of sedatives until she settled on a concentrated tincture of motherwort and valerian. For insomnia and nervous tension, she explained to the pharmacist. The husband is completely exhausted from work. Returning home, Tamara laid out the purchases on the kitchen table and started cooking. She cut, pickled, baked everything as Valentine loved. The movements of her hands were mechanical, but precise, honed by years of such work. But her thoughts were far away. The plan took shape clearly and clearly: wait until evening, serve dinner, add a sedative to her husband's beer, wait until he falls asleep, take documents from the safe, leave. Simple and scary at the same time. Valentine returned around 6, nervous and excited. "Well, how are the preparations?" he asked, looking into the kitchen. "Everything is ready." Tamara pointed to the set table: appetizers, main course, dessert. "The wine is cooling." "Excellent." He rubbed his hands contentedly. "Where is the small one?" "In her room." It seems she caught a cold again. Valentine frowned with displeasure. Again, only this was not enough. The guests will arrive soon, and here is a snotty child. "I asked her not to go out," Tamara reassured. "She'll sit quietly, no one will even notice." "Look at me," Valentine threatened. "I'll go change. And yes, open the beer for me. Nerves are to hell." When he left, Tamara took a medicine bottle out of her pocket. Her hand shook as she measured out a double dose into a glass of beer. It won't harm him, she convinced herself. It will just help him sleep better. Valentine returned in a fresh shirt and trousers. He sat down at the table, greedily grabbed a glass of beer. "Here's to success." He raised the glass and took a big sip. "Not bad. I'll open another bottle, perhaps." Tamara silently followed the instructions, adding a sedative to this glass. The husband drank, nervously glancing at his watch. "They should arrive any minute," he muttered, pacing around the kitchen. "Everything should be perfect." The phone rang when he was finishing the second bottle. Valentine grabbed the phone. "Yes, I'm listening." "What? Are you late?" His face lengthened. "For 2 or 3 hours, but I have already prepared everything." He listened to his interlocutor, wincing more and more. Okay, I understand. Traffic jams, force majeure." "Yes, I'll wait." He turned off the phone and swore. "We're stuck somewhere on the highway," he explained to Tamara. "They want to arrive before 11. "Maybe then you can rest a little," she suggested cautiously. "You got up at 6 this morning." Valentine waved it off, but it was noticeable that his eyes had already begun to stick together. The medicine was working. "I'll watch the news," he muttered, heading into the living room. "And you watch the table. Nothing should go bad." Tamara brought him another bottle of beer into the living room, the last one, without additives. But Valentine didn't even open it. Here, reclining in a chair, staring at the TV with a sightless gaze. His eyelids grew heavier. "Maybe you can lie down after all," Tamara suggested. "I'll wake you up when they arrive." He muttered something indistinctly, struggling with drowsiness. But nature and a double dose of sedative took their toll. 15 minutes later, Valentine was already snoring rhythmically, leaning back in his chair. Tamara waited another half hour, making sure that her husband was fast asleep. Then she carefully slipped into his office. The safe was hidden behind the picture, a tasteless landscape bought at a local fair. With trembling fingers, she typed the code, her mother-in-law's birthday, 06/04/1965. The lock clicked, the door opened slightly. Inside were documents, some folders, and a wad of money. Tamara quickly found her passport and Anichka's birth certificate. Sneaking into the nursery, she quietly woke up her daughter. "Honey, get up," she whispered. "We have to go." Sleepy Anichka obediently got up and allowed herself to be dressed. Tamara took a pre-packed bag from under the bed, added documents and money to it, those that were hidden in the book and given by Valentine for dinner. "Are we going on a trip?" Anichka asked, pulling on warm tights. "Yes, dear." Tamara kissed her daughter on the top of the head, into a new life. They went out through the back door, quietly closing it behind them. The backyard overlooked the forest belt that separated their plot from the neighboring houses. Tamara knew that at this time the neighbors usually watch evening TV series and do not look out the windows. Going out onto a parallel street, she took out the phone and called a taxi. "Yes, the bus station, please." While they were waiting for the car, Tamara took out the SIM card from the phone and broke it in half. Then she turned off the device itself. It is unknown when Valentine will wake up and start looking for her, but at least he can't track her by phone. The taxi arrived 7 minutes later. The driver, a plump middle-aged man, looked indifferently at the woman with the child handbag. "Bus station, you say? Sit down." The city floated by outside the window, sleepy, immersed in the evening twilight. Familiar streets, houses, squares flashed past. 5 years of life. 5 years of fear and humiliation. "Mom," Anichka pressed herself close to Tamara. "Where are we going?" "To the big city, dear," she answered, hugging her daughter. "Where good people live." The bus station greeted them with bright lights and a roar of voices. Tamara bought 2 tickets for a night bus to the regional center. There were 20 minutes left before departure. They sat on plastic seats in the waiting room, and Tamara held her daughter tightly by the hand. Somewhere deep in her soul there was still a fear that Valentine would wake up and rush into chase. "It will overtake them right here." "Mom, I'm thirsty," Anichka said quietly. "Now, dear." Tamara rummaged in her bag and took out a bottle of water. Here. They announced boarding for their flight. Tamara picked up the bag and took her daughter by the hand. "Let's go." "Our bus." They went out onto the platform. A large intercity bus was already waiting for passengers, flickering with side lights in the November darkness. Tamara helped Anichka up the steps. She found their seats in the middle salon. When the bus started moving, Tamara felt something inside her letting go. The tension of the last weeks, months, years, it seemed to flow out and flow down with every kilometer moving them away from Valentine's house. Anichka fell asleep with her head on her lap. Tamara stroked her daughter's hair and looked out the window. The darkness absorbed the flickering roadside lights. They were free. And it was only theirs. Freedom. Freedom that no one could take away from them. The night bus swayed rhythmically on the turns. Impenetrable darkness floated past the windows, occasionally cut by the light of oncoming headlights. Tamara sat with her cheek pressed against the cold glass. Anichka was sleeping, curled up with her head on her lap. The monotonous hum of the engine lulled her to sleep, but Tamara calmed to allow myself to fall asleep. Thoughts swarmed in my head. What awaits them in the regional center? Where will they live? Is there enough money? How will Valentine react when he discovers their disappearance? 105,000 rubles. Their entire fortune, 80 from their brother and 25 given by Valentine for dinner. The amount turned out to be both huge and insignificant. In a big city it would be enough for a couple of weeks of rented housing, food, clothes for Anichka. And then they need to find a job. Urgently. At least by someone. But today is Saturday. Tomorrow is Sunday. 2 days when it is impossible to get a job. 2 days of uncertainty. Anichka tossed and turned in her sleep, muttered something. Tamara stroked her daughter's hair, and she calmed down, burying her face deeper in her mother's lap. For her sake it was worth taking the risk. For the sake of this little body, this child's trust. "We'll handle it," Tamara mentally promised her daughter. "We'll handle it somehow." A phone vibrated in the jacket pocket, a new one, bought in secret from her husband with the money she had saved. Kopecks. Only one woman knew Anichka, Ludmila Korshanova, a former classmate and the only one Tamara could call a friend. Trying not to wake Anichka, she took out her phone and read the message. "Where are you?" Valentine put everyone on edge. "Call me." So he found it. Faster than she expected. Tamara bit her lip. A chill settled in her chest. She looked at the clock at the top of the screen, almost midnight. We managed to drive a decent distance, but it was still scary. Having made up her mind, she carefully dialed the number. "Hello?" "Tom," Ludmila's voice sounded alarmed. "Where are you? What's happened?" "Luda, hello." Tamara answered quietly, glancing sideways at the next seat where other passengers were dozing. "Anichka and I left." "Left?" There were panicky notes in her friend's voice. "Where?" Valentine was knocked off his feet, calling everyone. "He says you stole money and documents." "I didn't steal anything," Tamara said firmly. "These are my documents and my money." Pause. Then a quiet question. "Have you left completely? Not at all?" "Yes, my God, Toma. You're crazy. Where will you go with your child? Where will you live?" "I don't know yet," Tamara honestly admitted. "I will look for housing, work." "Luda, could you shelter us for a couple of days until I find an apartment?" The silence on the phone dragged on. "Luda?" "Tom," the woman finally exhaled. "I can't. You understand. I can't ruin my relationship with Zinaida Petrovna. She rents out my office to me. My whole business depends on her." Tamara closed her eyes. Expectedly, but it still hurts. "I understand," she answered quietly. "Come back, Tom," persuasive notes sounded in Ludmila's voice. "Everything is possible. Save. All men are like that, they'll go crazy. You have a child. Think about her." "I only think about her," Tamara snapped. "Sorry, I have to go." She pressed the end button and stared into the darkness outside the window. Hope collapsed like a house of cards. Everything she was counting on, a roof over her head for the first time, disappeared. She'll have to look for a hotel, spend precious money. Anichka tossed around and raised her sleepy head. "Mom, are we there yet?" "No, honey, 2 more hours." "Sleep, I'm thirsty." Tamara took a bottle of water out of her bag. The girl took a few sips and put her head on her mother's lap again. "Will we have a new home?" "It will be, dear. It will definitely be." The bus slowed down, stopping at some stop. The driver announced a 10-minute break. "Sit here, I'll go to the toilet." Tamara kissed her daughter on the top of the head. "Anichka will wake up." Returning to the bus, she noticed an elderly woman sitting a few rows away from them. Gray hair was neatly styled, there was a woolen scarf on her shoulders. The woman looked straight at her, as if she was waiting. Tamara shuddered. There was something elusively familiar in this look. Something from the distant past. "Sorry," the woman said when Tamara caught up with her. "Are you by any chance from Kalinovka?" "Yes," Tamara answered carefully. "Are we familiar?" The elderly woman's eyes filled with tears. "Tanya." "Is it really you, daughter?" Tamara froze. Only one woman called her Tanechka, her mother's friend, Aunt Galia. But she lost contact with her long ago after her mother's funeral. "Aunt Galia?" Tamara asked uncertainly. "Galina Semyonovna." The woman impulsively stood up and hugged her, pressing her to herself. "Lord, Tanechka, how I was looking for you. All these years, were you looking for it?" Tamara pulled away in confusion. "But why? I thought you didn't want to communicate." Galina Semyonovna shook her head. Who told you that? After the funeral, Tanya, I called, wrote, came. But your brother said that you moved, you were arrogant, you don't want to communicate with anyone from your past life. Gennady. Tamara felt a wave of anger rising inside. He lied. He told me that you left the city, Lord, Aunt Galia. The elderly woman shook her head. And this is your daughter. She nodded at the sleeping Anichka. Yes, this is Anichka. Tamara smiled involuntarily. She is beautiful. Just like you, the elderly woman said, and then suddenly became serious. Tanechka, why are you alone on the bus at night? What's happened? And Tamara, I don't know why, told about everything. About marriage, about control, about humiliation, about the night in the barn, and about running away. The words flowed in a stream, as if a dam had broken. Galina Semyonovna listened without interrupting. She just shook her head and furtively wiped away her tears. You're my poor girl, she whispered when Tamara finished. If only I knew. It's my own fault. Tamara lowered her head. You should have been stronger. Nonsense. Aunt Galia said decisively, you are very strong. Stronger than many. And now where are you going? To the regional center. I'll try to find housing, work, and you think that an unfamiliar city will welcome you with open arms? Galina Semyonovna shook her head. On Sunday, without acquaintances, with a child in her arms. Tamara lowered her head. I have no choice. I have nowhere to go. Yes. Aunt Galia said firmly. To me. To you? Yes, come to me. The woman smiled. I live alone in a 2-room apartment in the center. I worked all my life as a mathematics teacher. God did not give me my children. And now in retirement I get 25,000. The apartment is my own, privatized, there are no debts. I live quietly, measuredly. She sighed. Boring, to be honest. But I can't. You can, Galina Semyonovna interrupted. And you should. For the sake of the girl. I always dreamed of a granddaughter with whom I would bake pies. At least in my old age it will come true. Tamara felt a lump forming in her throat. But I don't want to be a burden. A burden? Aunt Galia laughed. My girl, can you imagine how lonely it is in old age, especially when you spent your whole life surrounded by children, and then within 4 walls? You will do me a favor. Let us determine. There is a good one near the house. And then you look, and you'll save up for separate housing if you want. Valentine will look, Tamara said with alarm. Let him look. Aunt Galia waved it off. He doesn't know where I live. And he won't go to the apartments of all my mother's friends. What if? Then we'll go to the police. Believe me, Tanechka, we can handle it. Together. And Tamara believed. For the first time in many years, my soul felt light, as if a huge stone pressing on my heart finally fell and broke into pieces. Mom, look what Grandma Galia baked. Anichka jumped into the room, beaming with delight. In her hand she was holding a still warm pie, sprinkled with powdered sugar. A month has passed since that night bus. A month of new life. Tamara put down the documents she was looking through and smiled at her daughter. Is it delicious? Very. Anichka handed her a half-eaten pie. Try it. Tamara obediently took a bite. The apple filling melted in her mouth. Delicious, she agreed. Grandma Galia is a real sorceress. Are you leaving? Anichka asked, noticing the documents. Yes, dear. I need to take the application to the accounting department of a construction company. They are hiring me. The girl clapped her hands. Hooray! So, you will work next to the kindergarten. Exactly. Tamara hugged her daughter. Just 2 blocks away. I'll pick you up right after work. Galina Semyonovna looked out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. Are you all ready for the interview? Yes, Tamara nodded. I'll take the documents and leave on Monday. Thank you, Aunt Galia. For everything. The elderly woman waved her hand. Nonsense. I should be thanking you. The house came to life with your arrival. Anichka ran up to her and grabbed her legs. Grandma, can I have another pie? Of course, honey. Go to the kitchen, there's a whole plate there. When the girl ran away, Galina Semyonovna sat down next to Tamara. Any news from him? Tamara shook her head. No. There has been silence for 2 weeks. I filed for divorce. The lawyer says that the court will order alimony for Anichka regardless of whether Valentine appears or not. That's good, Aunt Galia nodded, and yesterday I was at the notary. I formalized everything as I said, Aunt Galia. Tamara shook her head. This is unnecessary, we can handle it. Don't argue with your elders, the woman playfully threatened with her finger. The apartment should stay with you and Anichka. And that's it. There's no one else anyway. A sonorous child's laughter came from the kitchen, and both women involuntarily smiled. She has become completely different, Galina Semyonovna said quietly. When you arrived, she looked like a wolf cub. And now? Yes, Tamara agreed. Now she is just a happy child. She looked out the window where soft December snow was falling, wrapping the city in a white blanket. The 3 of them will celebrate the new year, a real family. Then there will be spring, summer, new plans, and hopes. You know, Aunt Galia, Tamara said thoughtfully, sometimes fate gives us gifts at the most unexpected moment. That random night bus. There are no coincidences, my girl, Galina Semyonovna smiled softly. Your mother often said, hope comes when you least expect it. She was right. Anichka ran out of the kitchen with a new pie and climbed onto Tamara's lap. Mom, let us watch cartoons in the evening, Grandma promised. Definitely, dear. Tamara hugged her daughter, inhaling the smell of apples and cinnamon from her hair. They have a whole life ahead of them. Outside the window, the snow continued to fall, erasing traces of the past and covering the earth for a new spring. Everything was just beginning. Dear friends, did you like our story Call of Hope? What do you think about Tamara's action? Share your opinion in the comments. If the story touched your soul, like it and share with friends. This is very important to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In the description you will find a playlist with all our stories. We wish you good health and good mood.